Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Rukmini Mati, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mati.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirade. Nastapraya Bhareshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So today we're continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 7, Schedule Incarnations with Specific Functions. Text 28.
Mati?
Then also, yeah.
Yeah, you can start from 26, Mati, since Prabhuji
Okay.
left the 2 yesterday, it's okay.
Okay, sure. Text 26. When the world is overburdened by the fighting strength of kings who have no faith in God, the Lord, just to diminish the distress of the world, descends with his planetary portion. The Lord comes in his original form with beautiful black hair, and just to expand his transcendental glories, he acts extraordinary. No one can properly estimate how great he is. Text 28. There is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana when he was just on the lap of his mother? To overturn a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old? Or to uproot a pair of Arjuna trees so high that they touched the sky when he was only crawling? All these activities are impossible for anyone other than the Lord himself. Text 28. Then also when the cowherd boys and their animals drank the poisoned water of the river Yamuna, and after the Lord in his childhood revived them by his merciful glance, just to purify the water of the river Yamuna, he jumped into it as if playing and chastised the venomous Kaliya snake, which was lurking there, its tongue emitting waves of poison. Who can perform such Herculean tasks but the Supreme Lord? Text 29. On the very night of the day of the chastisement of the Kaliya snake, when the inhabitants of Rajabhumi were sleeping carefully, there was a forest fire ablaze due to dry leaves, and it appeared that all the inhabitants were sure to meet their death. But the Lord, along with Balaram, saved them simply by closing his eyes. Such are the superhuman activities of the Lord. Text 30. When the cowherd woman, Krishna's foster mother Yasoda, was trying to tie the hands of her son with ropes, she found the rope to be always insufficient in length. And when she finally gave up, Lord Krishna by and by opened his mouth, wherein the mother found all the universe situated within. Seeing this, she was doubtful in her mind, but she was convinced in a different manner of the mystic nature of her son. Text 31. Lord Krishna saved his foster father, Nanda Maharaj, from the fear of the demigod Varuna, and released the cowherd boys from the caves of the mountain, for they were placed there by the son of Maya. Also to the inhabitants of Vrindavan, who were busy working during daytime and sleeping soundly at night because of their hard labor in the day, Lord Krishna awarded promotion to the highest planet in the spiritual sky. All these acts are transcendental and certainly prove without any doubt his godhood. Text 32. When the cowherd men of Vrindavan, under instruction of Krishna, stopped offering sacrifice to the heavenly king Indra, the whole tract of land known as Raja was threatened with being washed away by constant heavy rains for 7 days. Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy upon the inhabitants of Raja, held up the hill known as Govardhan with only one hand, although he was only 7 years old. He did this to protect the animals from the onslaught of water. 633. When the Lord was engaged in his pastimes of the rasa dance in the forest of Vrindavan, enlivening the sexual desires of the wives of the inhabitants of Vrindavan by sweet and melodious songs, a demon named Shankachuta, a rich follower of the treasure of the heaven, Kuvera, kidnapped by the damsels, and the Lord severed his neck from his trunk. Text 34-35. All the maniac personalities like Pralamba, Demeter, Baka, Kesi, Arista, Chanura, Ustika, Kulyapipa elephant, Kamsa, Yavana, Narakusara, and Paudaraka, great marshals like Salva, Dwinva monkey, and Balava, Dankavaragya, 7 bulls, Sambara, Vidurata, and Rukmi, and also great warriors like Kambabhoja, Mastya, Kuru, Srinyaja, and Keyikaya would all fight victoriously, either with the Lord Hari directly or him under the names of Baladev, Arjuna, Bhima, etc. And the demons, thus being killed, would attain either the impersonal Brahmajyoti or his personal abode in the Vaikuntha planets. 636. The Lord himself, in his incarnation as the son of Satyavati Vasudeva, will consider his compilation of the Vedic literature to be very difficult for the less intelligent persons with short life. And thus he will divide the tree of the Vedic knowledge into different branches, according to the circumstances of the particular age. 637. When the atheists, after being well versed in the Vedic scientific knowledge, annihilate inhabitants of different planets, flying unseen in the sky on well-built rockets prepared by the great scientist Maya, the Lord will bewilder their minds by dressing himself attractively as Buddha, and will preach on sub-religious principles. Text 38. Thereafter, at the end of Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residences of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the 3 higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred to the hands of ministers elected from the low-born Sudra class, or those less than them, and when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, and at that time the Lord will appear as a supreme chastiser. Text 39. At the beginning of creation, there are penance, myself, Brahma, and the Prajapatis, the great sages who generate them during the maintenance of the creation. There are Lord Vishnu, the demigods with controlling powers, and the kings of different planets. But at the end there is irreligion, and then Lord Shiva and the atheists full of anger, etc. All of them are different manifestations of the energy of the Supreme Lord, of the Supreme Power of the Lord. Text 40. Who can describe completely the prowess of Vishnu? Even the scientists who might have counted the particles of the atoms of the universe cannot do so, because it is he who is in his form of Trivikrama, moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet Satyaloka, up to the neutral state of the three modes of material nature, and all were moved. I'll stop here, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Mati. Yeah, Krishna and Prabhuji, when are you ready, you can take over.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादि पश्चात्तदेशितानि। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, titled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions, from Sloka 26 to 40. So just to give a background, in this chapter, Lord Brahma is describing some of the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, like Macha, Kurma, Varaha, Kapila, like that. Then he says to Narada Muni that this signs of God, like Srimad Bhagavatam, was spoken to Lord Brahma by the Supreme Lord in a summary fashion. So, and he requests Narada Muni to expand it because whoever reads or describes or appreciates or hears these teachings of the Supreme Lord, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, regularly with the devotion and respect, then they will go back home, back to Godhead. So, and so far we have covered up to 25 slokas where Lord Brahma described so many of the incarnation of the Supreme Lord, like Varahavataram, Kapila, Dattatreya, Naranarayana, like that, Narasimhadeva, Vamana, Parashurama, and Lord Ramachandra. So now Lord Brahma is mentioning or giving some brief information about the activities of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in the Sloka 26, we see that so whenever there is a adharma is or overburden with the fighting strength of the kings who have no faith in God, then the Lord would appear and then he will re-establish the dharma. So this here is mentioned that Lord here the Lord came in his original form with beautiful black hair, and his glories are extraordinary. So this is Lord Brahma is talking about Krishna. So Krishna came in the Dwapar Yuga, so end of the Dwapar Yuga. So when Krishna, before Krishna came, this earth was overburdened with many unrighteous kings like Kamsa, Jarasandha, and also there are so many demons like Putana, Sakatasura, Akasura, like that. So Krishna came to re-establish the dharma by protecting the devotees and annihilating the demons, like that. So not only that, like he arranged this Kurukshetra battlefield and he killed so many people, so many unrighteous kings. So it was mentioned, like heard in one of the purport or lecture of Prabhupada, that there are around 70 crore people are died in that battle. So in the text 27, Lord Brahma is narrating that some of the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord Krishna here. Like Krishna when he was in the lap of his mother, he killed Putana, the gigantic demon. And he also killed or overturned a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old, like killing the Sekatasura. And he uprooted the Arjuna trees while he was crawling, like Damodar Leela. Like, so these activities, and Brahma is saying that it's impossible for anyone other than the Lord himself. Of course, we hear all these beautiful nectarian pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Almost there are 90 pastimes. And one thing to mention here is like when Krishna killed Putana or any demon, so it is beneficial for them also. They were elevated to the spiritual world or merged into the Brahma Jyoti, like that. So here in the case of Putana, so she gave the motherly position in the spiritual world. So that's very merciful of Krishna. So when Sukadeva Goswami heard this pastime from a devotee, then he, up to that time, he was Brahmavadi, so meditating on the Brahman effulgence, but then he became a great devotee, pure devotee. And I heard in one of the lecture in His Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaj, he says that in the case of Putana, like Krishna made the person who gave milk not to drink milk again. Means like, Putana didn't get any more material birth. So she go back home, back to Godhead. So she doesn't need to drink the milk of the mother. Like that. So similarly, whoever he killed, they all got liberation to the spiritual world. So in the text 28, Lord Brahma is narrating a few other pastimes here, like the pastimes of chastising Kaliya, snake here. So this pastime is narrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapters 16 and 17, in more details. So this one thing to mention here is, of course, here the Kaliya, it's a poisonous snake, so it is poisoned the water of the Yamuna, and all the cowherd boys and the animals, when they went to drink the water, so they became unconsciousness, and Krishna revived them is merciful glance. So this pastime we can hear more detail when Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, when it comes to that summarization of that. One thing I heard in one of the lectures is when Krishna, after chastising Kaliya, and then he asked Kaliya to leave the Yamuna river, so that the inhabitants of Vrindavana, they can take bath, or they can use the water of Yamuna for their household activities. But Kaliya has a threat from Garuda. So, and this is the safe place for Kaliya to stay, so that Garuda cannot harm him. When he mentioned that to Krishna, Krishna says that when Garuda sees my footprints, then he will not harm you. So then Kaliya left from the Yamuna river and went to the ocean. And if I remember correctly, I heard that so Kaliya is still staying in the ocean around the Fiji country, the area in that country. So that way the Fiji, the ISKCON temple in the Fiji is named as a Krishna Kaliya temple. So in the text 29, where Lord Brahma is saying, after the chastisement of Kaliya, then the inhabitants of Rajamu were sleeping carefully in the forest, and there was a big fire due to the dry leaves, and it appeared that all the inhabitants were sure to meet their death. But we see here like the Lord Krishna and Balaram, just simply closing their eyes, they saved them. Lord Brahma is mentioning here, it's a superhuman activities. Of course, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so not only this forest fire pastime or Kaliya pastime, so all the pastimes of Krishna are superhuman activities. And Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, right? They are divyam. pastimes are divyam. Either appearance of Krishna or his activities are all transcendental. Janma karma chame divyam. Prabhupada stresses that whoever knows these superhuman activities because of their transcendental nature, they'll become eligible to go back home, back to God. Evam yo veti tattvataha deham punarjanma naitimamit. So this is a way one can escape all the sufferings of this material world, like dukkha, and go back home, back to God. So in the text 30th, we see that Krishna, Lord Brahma is narrating about the Krishna's Damodar Leela pastime, which we will hear in Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter 9, in elaborated way. So, but here he is giving very briefly, like where one day the Supreme Lord Krishna is very naughty, and his mother Yashoda, so she tried to tie the hands of her son with the ropes to a grinding mortar, and she always find that rope is insufficient length. We hear that it's 2 inches short, and she finally gave up, and he opened his mouth, where the mother Yashoda found all the universes. Of course, then she thought that it is the Narayana who is protecting his son Krishna. And of course, Acharyas gives here that a nice instruction, the reason for the 2 inches short of that rope, which we all can take for us and implement in our life, saying that so the 1 inch explains that it is the determination of the devotee to please Krishna or to practice Krishna. And the second finger is like a 2 fingers short, 2 inches. So the second inch is, or second finger is Krishna's mercy. So when we determine with determination, we practice Krishna consciousness and please Krishna, then Krishna shower his mercy. Then we can also bind Krishna in our heart with the rope of the devotion. So though the Krishna is Ajita, so unconquerable, but one can conquer, or he can become Jita with the because of the pure devotion of a devotee. So in text 31, Lord Brahma is narrating other pastime of Supreme Lord Krishna, where he saved Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd boys. Of course, Nanda Maharaj from the demigod Varuna, and then cowherd boys from the caves of mountains, placed by the son of Maya. And then saying that, all these acts are transcendental and certainly prove without any doubt about his godhood. And these pastimes are also mentioned in Bhagavatam 10th canto, 28th chapter. So this how Krishna saved his father Nanda Maharaj from the demigod Varuna. Right? Just to give a brief summary, that when Nanda Maharaj went to take a bath in the river Yamuna at the night time, which is inauspicious time, at that time the servant of Varuna, demigod Varuna, he arrests Nanda Maharaj and takes to the place of demigod Varuna. And Krishna understands, and then he goes immediately to the place of Varuna, and Varuna apologizes to Krishna, begged forgiveness on behalf of his servant, and then he releases Nanda Maharaj, and then he also worships Krishna in elaborate way. So that pastime we can hear from Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter 28. And Prabhupada also mentions in the purport that similarly, one who surrenders to Krishna, they're all freed from any fear or miseries of this material nature. And in the text 32, we hear that from Lord Brahma is mentioning about that the Govardhana hill pastime. So where Krishna lifted the Govardhana hill for 7 days, and when he was only 7 years old, to protect the animals on the slot of water. These pastimes, I'm sure mostly all of know, that when Indra got offended, he felt, because he was very proud. So to save from that pride, so Krishna arranged this pastime so that Indra can be saved from the pride. So this pastime we'll hear from the 25th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, how Krishna saved all the inhabitants of Vrindavana by lifting the Govardhana. And Prabhupada tells like when somebody claims that they are the Supreme Lord, then Prabhupada says that, if they are really Supreme Lord, they should show that how Krishna performed activities. Like they should lift the Govardhana hill and hold it like Krishna, like with his pinky finger for 7 days and 7 nights, or show the universal form like that. So in the text 33, we hear that Lord Brahma is narrating about Rasa dance of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. And at that time, this demon, Sankachuda, so he tried to kidnap the gopis. And then the Supreme Lord killed him. So this pastime is also mentioned in Bhagavatam 10th canto 34th chapter. So that we can hear from there. And in text 34 to 35, we hear that Lord Brahma is mentioning about several demonic personalities like Pralamba, Denuka, Bakasura, Kesi. So there are so many, Narakasura, Poundraka. So they were all killed by Krishna, either by Krishna or his representatives like Balaram, Arjuna, Bhima, all those things. Even though they were killed, but because they were killed in the hands of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotees, Arjuna, Bhima, they all attained either impersonal Brahma Jyoti or personal abode in the Vaikuntha planet. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that people who are killed in the hands of Krishna or in pure devotees, while leaving the body, if they recognize the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Lord, Krishna as the Supreme Lord, then they would enter into Vaikuntha, spiritual planet. But if they think that Krishna as a powerful being, then they attain merging into the Brahma Jyoti or spiritual existence. But every one of them is released from the material existence. So that's a merciful nature of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Prabhupada also mentions that Lord Brahma is giving all these incarnations information or activities so that in the future somebody doesn't claim, like a pseudo person, he will not claim that he is the Supreme Lord. So they cannot cheat people who are in knowledge. So they can know that, hey, if you are Supreme Knowledge, your information is not mentioned in the scriptures like that. So in text 36, we hear that from Lord Brahma, the incarnation of Vyasadeva, son of Satyavati. So, and Krishna as the Vyasadeva, he compiled the Vedic literature for the people of Kali Yuga, because people of Kali Yuga are less intelligent, short life, they cannot remember perfectly, their memory is very less. So in Bhagavatam also we see that in the people of Kali Yuga is Prayena Alpayish, like they are short life. So, and then Manda Sumanda, Manda Bhagya. So they are lazy, less intelligent, misguided, and they are on top of that misfortune. So they always are in distress. So they cannot remember. In the previous yugas, the teacher tells and the student remembers everything without writing it. But in Kali Yuga, the people of Kali Yuga, because they don't have that capability, so Krishna in the incarnation of Vyasadeva, so he compiled all the Vedic literature and wrote it down, so that for the people of Kali Yuga, they can take advantage of this Vedic literature and practice the spiritual life and then go back home back. Okay. So we see how Krishna is very merciful for the people of in this material world. How anxious he was looking all of us to join with him to go back home back to Godhead. So he is coming into this material world, is giving this knowledge through Lord Vishnu to Lord Brahma. And then for the people of Kali Yuga, if we don't remember, then he comes himself as a Vyasadeva and is writing down all this information. And all this Vedic literature is meant to understand Krishna and take up the process of Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to God. So to avoid these miseries of the material world. So Krishna is very mercifully is coming us, he's helping, he's trying to help us to go back home, back to God, so that we can be happy all the time. So in the text 37, we hear the incarnation of Lord Buddha. So Lord Brahma is narrating about the incarnation of Buddha, where there is predominance of atheists, so who are materially attached. So at that time, Lord Krishna will come as Buddha, and then he will bewilder them by preaching the sub-religious principles. So, yeah. And here we see that the Buddha that was mentioned here, Prabhupada mentions in the purport that it's not the same Buddha that we hear from the scriptures, other scripture, or the one who was recently appeared in this material world. So that's Gautam Buddha, but this Buddha he came in a different Kali Yuga time. Prabhupada mentions that in the life of Manu, there are 72 Kali Yugas. So in each Yuga, there is some incarnation. So this particular type of Buddha that is mentioned here is appeared in a different Kali Yuga. But the present Kali Yuga, the Buddha that appeared is a different. So, but when Buddha came, so he preached the sub-religious principles, because people are mostly materialistic and they're atheists. So to bewilder them, so he preaches the common sense religious principles like ahimsa, those kind of things. Of course, they are helpful to practice the religious principles. So that's why they are called sub-religious principles or upadharma. In the text 38, we hear Lord Brahma is narrating about the Supreme Lord Krishna's incarnation as Kalki. So at the end of the Kali Yuga, we see that, the worst conditions of the material world at the end of the Kali Yuga. There is no topics of the Supreme Lord. Even the so-called saints are the respectable gentlemen of three hierarchies, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. When those people also doesn't talk about the Supreme Lord pastimes or chanting of Hare Krishna or chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord. And even the administration is no longer in the hands of the Kshatriyas. So they will go into the hands of the Loban Shudra or less, like Mlecha Sevanas. And people in general, they doesn't know the techniques of sacrifice, even by word also, like the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So at that time, Krishna will come as a Kalki and chastise everyone. So that's why Prabhupada stressed that the time period that we are in, the beginning of the Kali Yuga, so is a golden period. So where the process is simple, just chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and then get the benefit of this. So Prabhupada mentioned this is a great opportunity. So Prabhupada stresses that one should take advantage of this time period and the process, the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Because I'm talking to myself. And then in the text 39, Lord Brahma is narrating about the Guna avatars. Like Lord Brahma himself takes up the in charge of the creation, and he's the in charge of the mode of passion, Rajoguna. And Lord Vishnu, so he's the in charge of the maintenance of the universe, controlling the demigods with controlling powers and the kings of different planets. He's in charge of the mode of goodness, Sattvaguna. And Lord Shiva, at the end of there is a religion, and Lord Shiva So he is the in charge of the annihilation. So, and then he is the in charge of the Rajoguna, mode of ignorance. So these three are the Guna avatars. And the last sloka for today, text 40. So Lord Brahma is saying that, so who can describe completely the prowess of Lord Vishnu? He's saying that even the scientists, so who might have counted the particles of the atoms of the universe, they cannot also do so. Okay, Prabhupada mentions that generally any scientist or material scientist, it is not possible to count the particles of atoms contained in this universe. What to speak of in this universe? Even in some small village or in this Earth planet, it's difficult to count the atoms of the universe. But even if somebody does, they cannot completely describe the prowess of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So, and Prabhupada gives example like, how wonderful and powerful Krishna. So, he is the form of Trivikrama, Vamana. So, his leg effortlessly touched the topmost planet, beyond the topmost planet, Satyaloka. So, we are in the past type of Vamana, right? So, when he stretched one of his leg, it touched the outer layer of the touched the topmost planet, beyond the topmost planet, and then there is a small hole, and then we see the Garbhodaka ocean water coming as Ganges into this Earth planet. So Prabhupada talks about how powerful the Supreme Lord. So that's why it is very difficult for one to describe completely the prowess of Vishnu. So that's why Acharya stresses that. So instead of we speculating about this universe or trying to research or measure the energies of Krishna, so we simply need to surrender to Krishna through the process of the chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which is prescribed in this Kali Yuga, and then perfect our life. Thank you very much. I'll pause it here. Ranara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.